Whenever I'm asked that question, I think my answer changes. I am a beloved daughter of God. I am a wife, a mother. I'm a chaplain. I'm a creative. I'm a writer. I am a lover of the stories of people. I'm a worshiper. I'm a singer, an actress, and just an appreciative person of life. I had the most amazing grandmother, who was my second mother, because my mom, who was like my very best friend, was divorced when I was young, maybe 7, 8, 9, somewhere around there. My mom would work 2 and 3 jobs to support me and my 2 brothers. And so often we were with my grandmother so that she could work. I was the only girl. I was a tomboy, very much so. Wanted to follow behind my brothers with everything. I always felt like an underdog because my father was not there. My parents, when they got divorced, my father went on to have another family. And we didn't see him that often. And I think that definitely had a shaping effect on me, on how I viewed a father, how I viewed men, how I viewed myself. And I think out of that desire to be loved and to be wanted, that's what I wanted to make sure nobody else felt that way. That anybody who was around me would always felt seen, heard, acknowledged, validated, and loved. And I think that that's part of what has drawn me to become a chaplain. I didn't mention that earlier. I am a chaplain. To just make people feel that way always, that who they are is very important. And I think that the faith that my grandmother and my mother instilled in me at a very young age, rooted and grounded me. Of course, growing up, as you're growing and meeting people and learning, make poor decisions, of course. But I always had that root of where to go back to, of God, a forgiving God, a loving God, a nurturing God. I did see God as a disciplining God because I had much discipline from my grandmothers and my mother. But that was in love to shape me to who I am. Even though my father was not there, the times he was there, he was very present when he could be. So I honor the fact that he was the best he could be. But I didn't learn that until much later in my life, when I realized there are some times I couldn't be what I felt I should have been, and hope that people could see that, but I had a heart to be. But in his stead, my godfather, my Uncle Barry, one of my favorite people in the world. He poured out to me and my brothers. He made sure that we grew up in a very small town called Rustburg, Virginia, in the country, but he was a world traveler. He lived in France. He went to Oxford for grad school. He went to Dartmouth for undergrad. He was very much passionate about us being as educated as we can be and to follow our dreams. So he would expose us to so many things. He definitely poured into us beyond Rustburg and beyond an uncle. And I think that was what helped me to, even though that the difficulty of being empty from my father, he filled me up in so many ways. And so he was an inspiration for me to always be the outpour. The biggest impact, I think, was having my own family, becoming a wife and a mother. It stretches you in ways that you would never imagine. To learning what it really means to communicate. I thought I knew what it meant, but learning to be real, and understanding that being real is the only way we can really get somewhere. And that being married taught me that. Being a mother taught me that. Because in order to, successful is not the right word, but in order to have a family that is healthy, is stable, is conscious, is to learn who we are and be real about it and be loving about it and to be validating about it. Grace, much grace. I would say low self-esteem, and it creeps up still. And it's a struggle to be confident that, you know, the work that God called me to, that he's going to perform it until the day of Christ, and that I'm enough to hold it and to move in it. Because often I have felt like I can't do this, I'm not worthy, I'm just this little country girl who doesn't really know much. And I will revert back to that sometimes when a task seems too big. But knowing, then I find out later on I've always had it in me. Whatever it is, whatever task God has given me, he's put something in me that I can at least get it started. Speak your truth no matter what, even if you have to whisper it, to get it in the atmosphere, because I promise you, there's somebody in the room who needs what you have, who needs to know your story, because it unlocks. It's like putting a key in a door and turning it. Even, like I said, even if you have to whisper it, hopefully you get to the point you can yell it so more people can hear it, but for your voice to be amplified. But it literally unlocks sometimes the smallest thing, the smallest detail that you think that doesn't matter. It matters to somebody, because they can't get past where they are in life until you speak it. That is such an interesting question. What is the message that I would want to give to a seasoned woman? I don't know. The fragrance of your life will, I don't know, it will expand the air, it will expand the beauty of this earth. And it's a fragrance that is that changes and that picks up little notes here and there to make a beautiful smell that will warm the atmosphere and will warm the earth for people. We need to smell it. We need to know it. We need to feel your story. Because when I think about that, like my grandmother, you all would never know how wonderful she is unless now I tell it, because she's gone on. But her favorite flower was a rose. And every spring, she had a wild rose bush. I would go and pick the roses and smell it, and I thought about my grandmother. And I would pick them and put them on the table. My mother, who was just here recently, we talked about that. I hadn't talked about it in a long time. She said my mama used to love it every spring that you would go pick the roses and put them on the table. It was something I did all the time, because that fragrance reminds me of her. Even now, my husband, if he gets me a flower, he knows to get me roses. It's my favorite thing, because I always think of my grandmother. Her life is a smell to me, and it's one that is warm to me, and it's one that reminds me of life wasn't easy for her. She raised with my grandfather together, just them two, 12 children. She never went to work, except for she worked around the house. She worked for people as far as that's concerned, to clean up and cook. But she raised 12 people who are smart, articulate, fantastic. And she taught me a faith that has brought me to where I am. So her fragrance is still here for me. And I want that to be for my children. And I hope that my fragrance will mature and get better, so that it's never forgotten by my children. She's everywhere, all around me, in me. I hear her voice. And dealing with death all the time, sometimes it's hard to help people to see that when people die, but they're not dead. They have made such an impact that you almost breathe them and breathe them out. They become a part of you and you breathe them out if you let them. And I think about my grandmother and my father passed, and even through him, just the love of music came from him. He's a lot like my father in that aspect, just that love of music and just that mind, that technical mind. And my Uncle Barry. I didn't know you were gonna do this.